What's up everybody, Ryan Suchit here and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. It's going to be more of a kind of longer video where we go into kind of a deep dive on something. So I haven't done many of this style, but if you enjoy it, please let me know in the comments and I'll try to do more of them. But yeah, so for today's video, I'm going to get into what to do when things go from good to bad with your campaigns. So, things are running well for a certain period of time, whether that's months, years, and then all of a sudden it just drops. And, whether it's sort of a sudden drop overnight or over a week or even kind of a slower burn, I'm going to give you some ideas of what it could be. And I'm going to focus more so on the non-obvious stuff that people tend to forget. So this is not for beginners that are looking for basic tips on how to optimize a campaign. This is for people who, kind of know how to optimize an account, but, things go from good to bad. It can also be for people who just have a campaign that's not really working well and they want to think of some, unique ways of what it could be. There'll be some helpful tips in here for that as well. But yeah, so let's dive in. So the first thing you want to look at is, are things actually not working, right? Or is it just a reporting error, right? So if you're looking at conversion tracking, number one, did conversions just break, right? So it's nothing really you necessarily did with your optimizations, but just on the reporting side, conversions aren't tracking properly. That's the first thing you want to do. And one of the tips I would say is when you're in your account, go segment and then conversion action. I don't have conversion set up in this demo account, but then you'll see which conversions and you can look at your time frame and see what conversions, went from a high number to a low number or whatever the story is. And then, dig in and figure out, why did it break and fix it. So that's kind of an obvious first check to do. Then the other thing that's a little less obvious is doing more so of kind of a website overview and seeing if the client added a new call to action. So I have had this before where, they just decided to change the contact form to a request a quote and it's a new form, new thank you page, and it might be right on the home page or a main page like the contact us. So you don't really notice, and the client didn't tell you, but there's something new in there that you're not tracking. So that's another thing I'd look out for. Okay, and then the other thing in terms of, are things actually not working is, are you just taking the client's word for it? So I've been doing this for a long time, and for whatever reason, I have had some clients that just say, Ryan, I'm getting 0 calls, right? And then, you have CallRail or call tracking, and there's tons of calls there, right? So don't rely everything on that, right? Do your job as a Google Ads manager and focus on things like, quality of traffic. So your search terms, clicks, are you spending the budget? And then if you have conversion tracking, obviously that as well. But don't always take the client's word for it, okay? Because that does tend to happen sometimes. Just do your best job as an account manager and, just do really good Google Ads work. And, a lot of clients will be telling the truth. So obviously, do listen, but I just want to tell you that because if you're a newer Google Ads manager, clients can really affect the results, right? Because if they tell you, things went from great to bad, and then all of a sudden you make all these changes in your account, meanwhile, things were actually pretty normal for them, and maybe they're going through their own stuff or maybe just overall calls went down, right? Because, their organic rankings went down. So just keep that in mind, okay? All right, so just looking through my notes here, I got a big checklist. So, okay, the next one is, if it's not a reporting error, let's look at what went bad. So on the campaigns view, you can always look at the compare function. Everyone knows how to do that, but I also wanted to show you a cool tip, which is segmenting by time and then week. Oh, whoops. Segment time and then week. So this is a really cool view that a lot of people don't know about. So in this view, you can kind of see an overview of your metrics and what's happening week by week, right? And it depends on when things went bad, but you can segment by different things as well, like month and whatever. But the week one is the one I look at a lot. So this is where you can kind of see what specifically is going bad, right? Did your cost per click jump by 200%, right? And there's a few things you want to focus on here. Your clicks, conversions, average cost per click, your search impression share, search loss due to budget and rank. So sort of those main ones. And then, your impression absolute top, and kind of just looking at a big view of what it is that's going bad over time, because you can't really dive in until you know what's broken. So I just wanted to show you that. So now I'm quickly just going to go through the obvious stuff that most of you probably already checked, but I still wanted to include in this video. Number one is going through your notifications, right? A lot of you might ignore these because Google does put a lot of junk in there, but there are some good ones in there. And the one specifically is negative keyword conflicts. This can be a really big one. I had one mistake I made. I might have told you guys about this before in another video. But what basically had happened, I had I think it was a commercial cleaner. And then in the search terms, I must have been tired that day or whatever, but I saw, a cleaning TV commercial. So what I like to do is take a single word and add it as a negative. So I'm like, TV commercials, obviously we don't want that. So I'm going to negative out commercial. Big mistake, because they are a commercial cleaning company, right? That word has two different meanings. So made a mistake. But that's why you want to look for these negative conflicts, because you can imagine how badly that can affect your campaign, right? Your number one keyword, you just negative it out. So that's kind of something to look at, but there's other notifications. So just make sure you look through those. Same with your recommendations, just in case something pops in there. The other obvious thing is looking through disapproval. So your ads, your keywords, your ad extensions, especially like your call extension, maybe you had disapproval there. And the one non-obvious thing here is, statuses, right? So let's say you created an ad and then all of a sudden it's the housing, right? The housing policy, whatever that is. And then maybe you have you removed, the 18-year-olds age group, which obviously conflicts with that housing. So you could have issues there. So just look at those status updates and see if you have a problem there. And then the other obvious thing is, are you running an experiment or an ad variation that just ended or something happened? That's more of an obvious one. Okay, and then also looking at the change history. So I am going to go here. So the one cool thing I did want to show you is you can actually filter by user. And the reason I want to tell you that is because I don't know what it is, but lately I've had a few clients who have gone in their accounts and made fairly substantial changes. And sometimes the changes they make aren't obvious, so you don't really catch them. So I've sort of added it to my weekly checklist to go through the change history to see if clients are doing this type of thing. Because as you know, like I had clients changing the bidding strategy, adding broad keywords, doing all kinds of stuff. And that can really negatively affect things. So that's number one. But number two is, what did you do in the past, whenever things went down? If it was last week, go through the change history to see, what you changed. And if that could be the obvious reason of why things went bad. Or maybe you made a mistake. You clicked something wrong, you're using some type of software where you made a mistake. So you want to look through there. And then the other thing I did want to say is change history doesn't include everything, which really sucks. So, another obvious check is obviously just going through everything in the account, right? All your tools and settings, the settings in the account, the campaigns, the audiences, the bid adjustments. That's the obvious stuff I'm not going to get into because most of you are going to go through all of those to look. But I did want to mention that, some of the big ones are, did you add a keyword like abroad? Did you make a bidding change, bid adjustments, locations, adding or removing keywords, ad schedules, that type of stuff. But now I'm going to get into the juicy stuff, which is the non-obvious checks, which most of you are probably interested in. So number one is I always like to check auto apply recommendations. This can be a big one. So because the client might have turned it on, they might have did a call with a Google rep and they told them to turn it on, or you might have just forgotten it's on there and it made a big change. So to do that, just go into your recommendations, click auto apply, and then you can turn these off in here. Okay, so I wanted to show you that. The other thing is looking at rules. So this happens very rarely, but and the rules is in here, I believe. Where is it? Planning, shared, bulk action rules. But I had one where a client had a rule in there that the way it was set up is it wasn't really doing anything until a certain spend happened. There's tons of rules you could have, but basically this thing happened and then this rule made a big change. So that's a non-obvious thing to check, but definitely go in there, because you'd be surprised sometimes the client will have an old rule or an old agency that when you did your audit or create a campaign, you don't really look at rules. But yeah, something to look at. The next thing is automated bidding. So some of you guys, you changed to automated bidding, and everybody knows to kind of monitor at the start to see, is it out? Maybe you did an experiment versus manual to see, if it's going to work. Everyone knows that part. But the thing I did want to mention is sometimes Google will kind of selfishly make the automated bidding look good for the first, 30, 60, 90 days. So then you convert to automated, and then after that time period, it breaks, right? So whether Google's doing it on purpose or not, I do see this a lot. So keep that in mind, that it could just be the fact that automated bidding is not for this campaign and you want to go back to manual. But then the other thing I did want to say is I had this one, I believe it was an audit I was doing, where a client, they were running and they had automated bids and it was working, and then it dropped to zero. So what had basically happened was they were using Maximize Conversions, but their conversion tracking broke. So basically Maximize Conversions is using AI to learn based on your conversion data to make bidding changes, right? So you can imagine if you have no conversions or conversions break or they drop, Google's algorithms going all over the place, right? So that's a huge issue. If you're using automated bidding based on conversions, you want to make sure your conversions are 100%, because this client could not figure out. They tried everything and nothing would work, and this was the main reason. They switched off Maximize Conversion and went to Max Clicks, I believe, and then everything was solved. But the other way of doing that, of course, is just fixing your conversions. Okay, and then probably the number one tip I have is checking the ads that are running against yours. This is something I'm even guilty of forgetting to check, but this has happened multiple times now. And I'll give you one example. So I was running for this one, I can't remember what the industry was. Anyways, they basically told me that they had the best price. They knew for sure they had the best price. And it probably was true at the time. And they really wanted me to promote it in the ad copy. So, it was, blah, blah, blah service for $1,000, right? Headline one, ads are going good for a long time. And then all of a sudden they drop. And then I do all these other things I'm talking about. And nothing's working. And this is over the course of months, right? And you're basically close to losing the client because I can't figure out what's going on. Sure enough, one of the last checks I did was, looking in the ad preview, looking what other ads are running, and every single competitor had a price lower than theirs. So you can imagine, right? Blank service for $1,000, and everybody else is like blank service for $500, $750. So as you know, and then some of you might think, oh, well then your click-through rate would have dropped, so you check your ads. That doesn't always happen. People still click, go to the website, see it for $1,000, and then they don't convert. So you still might get the click, but your conversions aren't there because they're going through these other ones and also seeing their pricing, right? It was just the fact that this client went from the cheapest to one of the most expensive with the advertisers. So that is a really, really important one. Okay. The next thing on the list is a website change, right? So you want to look if, URLs are broken. So sometimes Google will catch these, and, again, you'll catch in the notifications tab. But one thing I always like to do is go through the ads, in your ads, toolbar here, you can actually click your ads. You don't get charged for it. And then you see the URL it's going to, just making sure everything looks good, because sometimes the link might not be down, but the client made a change. It might be a blank page, right? Or the wrong content or something like that. So that's another check I'll do, is I'll actually go through where the ads are going. And the next one I want to mention is Auction Insights. I'm not going to go into the tabs here just for privacy reasons, but and this might be more of an obvious one, but the one thing I did want to mention is you can segment by time and then see the change in your Auction Insights report, and seeing, if your impression share is drastically changing over time for a certain competitor, right? Maybe they're getting more aggressive or a new one has come in. So that's something you want to look at. The other thing is at the campaign level. So let's go to video campaigns here. This isn't going to be super useful just because these are video campaigns. That's all I have running in this demo account. But you want to segment by network with search partners. So I have seen this go bad a few times. Search partners might be, doing decently well, and then all of a sudden spend goes from $50 a month to $500 a month. And things drop drastically, right? Because you don't have control with search partners. So this will show you your search partners, and also show you if you have display turned on. And that's obviously something you pretty much all the time want turned off. So that's something to check there. And when I say display, it's the display add-on from search, right? So that's what you want to be looking at, right? If you're in the search campaigns and then you segment and then you just see display, that's a problem. And then the other thing I wanted to say, and this is the last one, is your locations. So sometimes you might accidentally have located and interested in. So one of the cool things you can do is you can actually change this to matched locations, and then you can see where your ad is actually showing, right? So in this example, I want these types of countries, but maybe you're targeting, some US state, and then you see India and these other places. So this is something you want to look into for that interested in. And again, you might be doing it on purpose, but the results might be terrible. Or you might have it turned on. You don't, you want to go in there and turn it off. So that's something you want to look into. Anyways, guys, I know that this is a longer video, but certainly these are the things I go through when things go bad, and usually one of these things are the culprits. So I hope you enjoyed this, longer type of deep dive strategy video. If you did, please let me know, and I'll do more of them. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on so you can find your way back. See you in the next video.